Hi, I'm Liz Needon. Let's have a look at tree diagrams, particularly question 2F on page 60 of the Walker book. So what we've got is we've got our scenario about grandma and lollies. And in this particular problem now, she's talking about again having 20 different lollies in her jar, but with different numbers of each type. And she's talking about having 2 fruit drops. And the probability of getting 2 fruit drops is 42 out of 380. So let's just have a look at our diagram to make sense of what this information that we've got is. So there's our base setup. Now remember that when we're talking about 2 fruit drops, this one here, probability of 2 fruit drops would be these two being multiplied. So what we know is we know that that probability of 2 fruit drops, that is 42 out of 380. Let me just double check that I got those numbers right. 42 out of 380, yes. Okay. So we know that much. So now we've got to work backwards and think, well, what would the numbers on the branches have been in order to get that answer? So we know that she's got 20 lollies, so the first fraction is going to be something divided by 20. Then the second fraction is so I'm going to call that P on the top. Then the second fraction is going to be something out of 19. And however many fruit drops we had at the start, we're going to subtract 1 from that. So that's going to be P minus 1 over 19. So what we now have is we actually have an equation that we can form. And we can say P over 20 times P minus 1 over 19 is equal to 42 over 380. And now this is what we need to go and solve. So what we know about multiplying fractions is that we multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom. So I'm going to do P times, and I'll put this in bracket, P minus 1 over 20 times 19 is equal to 42 over 380. Now if we just jump to our lovely calculator, we will find that 20 times 19 is actually equal to 380. So what we've got is P times P minus 1 over 380 is equal to 42 over 380. So I can literally cross multiply and the 380s are both going to disappear. So what I'll be left with is P times P minus 1 is equal to 42. Now this is the bit that I need to go and solve. So let me just go on to the next slide so I get some more room. So we've got P times P minus 1 is equal to 42. To solve this I need to expand the brackets and rearrange this to get it into a quadratic form so that I can go and put this into my calculator to solve. So expanding the brackets out, P times P is P squared minus P times 1 is P equals 42. And now I'm going to move the 42 over. So P squared minus P, minus 42 is equal to 0. Now the reason that I want it in that form is because when I want to solve a quadratic, I want it in that form, what they call ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That's the format that my calculator is going to want it in. So what I need to do now is I need to work out what are the values of a, b and c for my particular equation. So I've got the p squared term, and so the number in front of that is 1. So that means I'm going to have an a value of 1. The b is the number that's in front of x, or in this case in front of p, and I've got a minus 1, so b is equal to minus 1, and the number by itself, c, is minus 42. So now I'm going to go to my calculator, and in my menu I've got an equation option there. So I'm going to go down to my equation, And what I want is a polynomial. This is a x squared, so I want to solve polynomial, so f2. And the highest power, or the degree, in this case the highest power is 2. So I'm going to say degree 2. And now here's that ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So I'm going to put in these values. If a is 1, b is negative 1, and c is negative 42. And I'm going to say go and solve that. And it gives me two answers because it's a quadratic. It always gives two answers. Well, not always. Most of the time it'll give two answers. But I want to look at this and go, I'm talking about the number of lollies. Can I have negative 6 lollies? No, that's not a reasonable solution. So that means the solution is actually going to be 7. So when I solve this, I get p equals 7 and minus 6. And I'm just going to put a little note there. Not possible for the negative 6. Therefore, there must have been 7 lollies to start with. And so if we just go back to the original question, how many fruit drops were there in the jar at the start? We've just found that there were 7 fruit drops in the lolly jar at the start. So 7 fruit drops in the jar at the start. Thanks for watching.